Hello everybody and welcome to another stream. Today I'm doing a surprise stream, so I've basically said that I'll do streams on Monday, Wednesday, and sometimes Friday. Today is the Sometimes Friday stream, and my Sometimes Friday streams are usually going to be more towards the afternoon. However, today I have the day off, so I've decided to just spin up a stream and do some Blazor stuff. So today we're going to do some Blazor. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. We're going to work on this Blazor Facial Recognition application. So this is a facial app that I've been working on, that I've been building, and I'm writing an article about it. I've done a lot of stuff with the Face API with Azure Cognitive Services. I can't speak today. I don't know why I can't speak today. Maybe it's because of day off. But anyway, today we're going to be streaming this as I build out some more functionality. It's going to be cool. There we go. And I'm going to do my little technical checks here. Make sure things are streaming and looking good. We'll go to Twitch. And a lot of times I like to just go on here and make sure that things are working great. And it appears they are. And we've already got 5 people on the Twitch stream. That's great. Let's check here. And it looks like Twitter. Okay, and so today I'm only streaming to Twitter and Twitch. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to get a little bit higher frame rate, a little higher bit rate. If you want to see every single stream that I do, you'll want to subscribe to me on Twitch. Got the big URL down below there. I'm trying to reach 500 followers because at 500 followers, I'm going to do a drawing to win one of these. Raspberry Pi 400. So go to my Twitter page, twitter.com/Jeremy C. Morgan. And right there at the top is a pinned tweet. If you retweet that, you'll be automatically entered. As soon as I hit 500 followers on Twitch, I'm going to give away one of these. Not this one. I'm going to send you a brand new box with all of the cables and accessories and manual and everything else. And we're going to do some streams using this one here very soon. And it's really cool. It's a really cool product. But let's talk about what we're going to do today. I just wanted to make sure all my technical stuff was good before I even started here. And it looks like everything's good. So I've had some issues in the past where I've streamed from all of these different machines, all of these different boxes. I've got different bit rates, stuff like that. So sometimes I like to check and just make sure that things are streaming and they look good, because sometimes when the bit rate's really off, it looks really bad. So check again, just one more check to make sure. And I might adjust my bit rate just a little bit. Make sure the quality is high. Perfect. It's got to be able to read this stuff, right? Okay, so what I'm doing here is, let me make sure I've got the right screen up here. Okay, so I've got my Visual Studio up here, and what I've done is I've built a facial recognition application with Blazor. Now, in a previous stream, I kind of went through how I did that. We put it up here, and I'll just go ahead and push play and show you where we're at right now. Right now, we've got a standard Blazor application, and I added a Razor component where you can put in an image URL and get some attributes from that. So let's test that really quick. One of the things I've done is I have my standard headshot, right, that I use pretty much everywhere. And we'll just drop that standard headshot in there. Voila. So in our last stream, we built this. And what this does is it just sends this image to the Azure Cognitive API, Cognitive Services API. And we're using the Face API. And the Face API, you can send stuff in, and this is the image recognition part. And this is where it recognizes the face and it assigns some attributes to it. Now here we can see we've got an image ID. This isn't a really big deal right now. It says my gender's male, my age is 43, pretty accurate. Glasses, reading glasses, and emotion, happiness. So this only works with URLs. And I will bring up Postman here. Right now it only works with URLs, which is a little bit inconvenient, but we're going to add image upload functionality to it at some point. So we can do face right here, send face by URL. In the body, we'll put in, and this Postman request is actually exactly what we're doing with the Blazor application. And as you can see, we get all kinds of stuff. We get pitch, roll, and yaw with the face, reading glasses, etc. So this is exactly what we're doing with this, and this is what we did in the last stream. So if you want to catch up, my last Blazor stream, I've tagged every stream with brackets, Blazor, things like that, and this is the what we put together in the last stream. What we're going to do is we're going to add some functionality to this today, and we're going to test this a little bit. So what I did is I took a bunch of pictures here, and we'll go to images, test 001.jpg. Okay. So what I did this morning was I went and took some images with different emotions. If you remember Emotion Eric, which I don't even know if that exists anymore, where a guy named Eric just takes pictures of a bunch of emotions, that's what it reminds me of a little bit. So this is a neutral emotion here. And what I'm going to do is just take these, and I took pictures of myself with several different emotions, and we're just going to kind of test this facial recognition API and see how it goes. And I'm going to load up my chat channel because I don't do that enough. Open in browser. Make sure I have the chat up. And if you have any questions about what I'm doing here, feel free to just drop it in the chat. And what we're working with here, this repo right here. So if you go to github.com/jeremymorgan/blazorfacerec, this is the repo that we're working with right now. This is the repo that all my articles are pointing to, and this is what the stream is pointing to. And as you can see, I haven't done anything with this repo in 29 days, but that's going to change today. So be sure to check it out. So here's one of my images. We'll just copy. Actually, I'm going to copy image number 1, and we're going to send it to our application and see what it does. This is a pretty neutral emotion, and as you can see, it says emotion neutral. Now this one, it reduced my age a little bit. So on the last one, it thought I was 43. So I'll bring this up really quick. So this one, my common headshot image, it says I'm 43, which is pretty accurate. I'm 43 right now, but I actually took this picture last summer, so I was 42 in the picture. But it says I'm 43, and then I somehow de-aged myself a little bit because the picture I took this morning, oops, I'm still in that OS X mode. Let's go back to the picture that I took this morning. Now all of a sudden I'm 42. So age is pretty close. I mean, it's close enough. I'd say a year or two is perfectly fine. One of the things that I want to do, and I'll probably do this on a stream, is I want to take some of those aging apps that like age you forward and backward and take those applications and see if Azure Face API will pick up on those changes. I think it probably will. I'm guessing. Let's fire up some music here. The music today is brought to you by Harris Heller, who has kindly offered a whole bunch of music for streaming. I suggest you support it. I'm playing this right now off of Spotify, and as you can see here, we have Stream Beats Retro, just a bunch of free stuff. And what Harris Heller did is he basically got together and recorded a whole bunch of music for copyright-free streaming. Pretty awesome. Gets paid every time we play this, so I try to play it just to kind of support the effort. All right. So this one says my motion is neutral. That's great. Let's see what image number 2 shows. And in image number 2, I'm clearly surprised. There we go. Emotion surprise. Pretty awesome. So in this image, I look a little surprised. Did this on purpose, of course. And the Azure Face API picked it up. So that's great. So let's see what image number 3 does. Oh, this one I'm a little bit angry, maybe a little frustrated. Something like that, right? So let's see if the Azure Face API picks that up. Process image. And this one says emotion neutral. So I wouldn't exactly say that this is neutral. This looks like that I'm a little frustrated. I'm a little, you're right. So I wouldn't call this neutral. This would be some serious RBF if I were neutral, but that's okay. We'll just keep going through them and see what the Azure Face API picks up. Oh, look at this one. I'm happy. I'm smiling. I'm probably fishing in this picture, right? Because I'm happy and smiling. Emotion, happiness. There we go. So this is like compiling with no errors, starting up a truck for the first time. I don't know. This is what I'm happy. Spending time with my family. This is when I'm happy. So it picked up that one pretty good. Let's see what the next image is. Uh-oh. In this one, I'm sad or disappointed. In this particular picture. So let's see if the Azure Face API picks that up. Ah, there we go. Emotion, sadness. This is when I jump in the truck and I turn the key for the first time and it goes brrr, and it doesn't start, right? So I use this as an analogy a lot of times because I restore old trucks. I've restored countless old trucks. I'm working on one right now that was my dad's truck, and I'm sad when it doesn't start. Which luckily for the past year or so, it started every time I turn the key. But anyway, this is emotion sadness right here. So this is sad. Code did not compile. Let's see what the next emotion is. Uh-oh. Yay! The truck started. The code compiled. This should be some form of happiness, right? There we go. Emotion, happiness. And notice it's picking up my glasses every time, and it keeps saying reading glasses. I don't know if it shows anything other than reading glasses, honestly, because that's what I seem to see a lot in these. I've sent a ton of images to this, and what we'll do is we'll go look for some celebrities or something on Google and put this in and see what we can gauge from that. But I just want to do some sanity tests here. Here's neutral with no glasses. It's kind of funny. I just started wearing glasses a couple of years ago. And so for 41 years, I ran around with no glasses. And then suddenly, my wife noticed that I had to squint to look at things sometimes, especially at night. And then I went in and got my eyes checked. I got glasses. They said, yeah, you need to be wearing glasses all the time. So these aren't reading glasses. Neither are the glasses that I wear in any of the pictures, but it always comes up with reading glasses. So it's kind of funny. So let's try this again. Oh, glasses equals no glasses. Pretty impressive. And emotion equals neutral. Now, all of this is, all that we're doing with this Blazor application, Blazor actually isn't really doing very much. It's not doing anything more than Postman or a curl request would be doing. You're just taking an image, kicking it up to the API, and the API is returning back all this stuff. However, I have aged a little bit. I'm 44 now, according to this, without my glasses. So that's something that maybe I should know. Maybe when I'm not wearing glasses, I look a little bit older, right? Because I'm 43 and this thing says I'm 44, but whatever. I don't really care about that. That's really splitting hairs when you talk about 1 year. So here's another one, no glasses. Now I'm happy, right? Code compiled. And this one says I'm 43 all of a sudden. So I've went back to my real age, my regular age. That's good. And not wearing any glasses, and I'm happy. I don't even remember how many images I uploaded this morning, but oh, here's one where I'm surprised. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that thing didn't compile. There we go. So now I'm 45. I'm even older, according to this. But I'm not wearing glasses, and I'm surprised. So with the age one, I'm not really super concerned about the age one. I think the age one is kind of neat. I think it's great that it gets within a general range. But I can't think of a really great use case for that anyway, other than like, what age do you think you are? Like some kind of Facebook thing or something where you click on it and say, what age am I? And it guesses your age. Other than that, I can't really think of any good uses for this. So I'm okay with it being somewhat precise. Okay, so the next one, let's see what the next one looks like. I've got 2 more images. Oh, this one I'm mad. The code did not compile. The truck didn't start. Something else, that I'm frustrated by happened in this picture. Process image. Anger. Look at that. So I'm 44 years old still. And maybe that's the additional wrinkles in the head. I don't know where it comes up with 44. But yeah, it could be just the wrinkles in my head there. But it says that I'm 44, not wearing glasses, and I'm angry. I'm mad, which never happens, right? So this is pretty cool to be able to go through this, and go through all these different little emotions. It's pretty cool. Neutral with my reading glasses. 42. A little younger here. Oh, this one I'm pretty surprised. Oh my gosh. Surprised. But I aged a couple years. Wearing reading glasses. So this is just some stuff that I decided to through here. Let's see. Burt Reynolds. One of my favorite actors. May he rest in peace. Let's see if we can get a Burt Reynolds. Let's see how old he was here. Copy image. Huh. That must redirect, because that just broke my application. Oh, it's a friggin' WebP, of course. Here we go, just a JPEG of Burt Reynolds. We'll reload this really quick. It's having a little bit of a hard time there. Process image just isn't happening. All right, let's go for one of my favorite movies of all time, Dumb and Dumber. Here we go, Lloyd Christmas. Let's see if Lloyd Christmas comes through. There we go. So, according to this image, we've dropped in a picture of Lloyd Christmas right in the very beginning of the movie, if you've watched it. It says that it's a male, he's 32 years old, not wearing glasses, and the emotion is happiness. So let's go to IMDb. Let's look for Jim. Actually, we'll just do Dumb and Dumber. Jim Carrey as Lloyd. So I wonder how old Jim Carrey was when he did this movie. (1962). So he would have been 32 years old. Amazing, right? Whoops, where we go. He was 32 years old when he did this role, and this actually figured out that Jim Carrey was 32. So that's pretty impressive, right? This Face API is super impressive, super cool. I like it a lot. So we want to add some stuff to it. And I wonder how well it works with old photos, right? So we'll go to IMDb again. It's I really like the movie Bullet because I'm a Mustang person. Let's see if we can find a picture of Steve McQueen in Bullet. I don't even know that actor's name, so I'm not going to go with him. We could just go with this picture right here. So we know that that Bullet was released in 1968, which would have made Steve McQueen 38 years old. Let's see if we can get this. Probably not. I can save it. I don't really want to save it though. It's an HTML. Let's see if we can get an image of Steve McQueen in Bullet. Here's a good one. This is an autograph picture, right? Here's probably one of the best ones. Right here. This has a good image of his face. It's a JPEG. There we go. So we have 38-year-old Steve McQueen in Bullet, one of the greatest movies out there. It's a cool cop movie where he's a cop, but of course there's like an 8-minute scene that makes the whole movie for every Mustang person out there, which is where the Bullet Mustang comes from. It's this let's see. There we go. Let's see if it says that Steve McQueen is 38 years old. Oh, it says 48. Oh my gosh. That's way off. That's 10 years off. I'm not even sure that Steve McQueen made it to 48 years old, unfortunately, but he is 38 in this movie, in this image right here, and it says he's 48, but it does say that he has no glasses and he's neutral. I'd say that's a pretty neutral expression. That's just kind of a, what's going on here? Here's one where he kind of looks angry, right? And I don't know if I can get the image for this one. There we go. Angry or pensive or something, so. Well, it still says neutral, still says he's 49 years old. That's pretty close. Close enough for government work, right? Anyway, I just kind of wanted to try out some of this. So in the past stream, what I did was I saved my API key on here, and then this is just a Blazor. It's actually a Blazor server app. This isn't Blazor WebAssembly. One of the reasons for that is, I'll show you here in the code. Go ahead and bring up our, okay, so here is our control here. And when we're working with this HTTP client, it doesn't quite work the same in WebAssembly, I noticed. There's a lot of things like you can't upload pictures, you can't do several things in WebAssembly. So that's the reason I made this a server application, is so that in the future, basically it's a future thing, you can make a WebAssembly app that will only send URLs to the Face API. Works great, works awesome, but if you want to upload anything, you cannot upload with WebAssembly very well right now. So that's why I started this as a Blazor server application, because I'm going to build in an API in the back end. We'll upload it to Cosmos or something, some kind of temp folder, and do some analysis there. So let me go ahead and bring up here the Face API reference. Right here, what we're doing is we're just doing the face detect stuff, right? And it uses a couple different recognition models, and it just basically says, is there a face there? Yeah. And then when it says we found a face, it sends back some attributes: age, gender, smile, facial hair, emotion, makeup, all kinds of stuff. Exposure, occlusion, whether each facial area is occluded, which is kind of cool. Mask, whether someone's wearing a mask, which I think is pretty interesting. So let's say you're building this, let's just think about some use cases here. One of the cool things I think this would be used for, and I'll probably build it at some point, is just facial recognition on a web app. So if I want to go into a web app and I say, hey, I'm Jeremy, and they say, okay, well, let's take a look at your webcam. Pop on the webcam. Oh, yeah, you're Jeremy. We'll let you in. That might be kind of a cool way to do this. And so if you did that, if I said, yeah, I'm Jeremy, and then I put on a mask, it says, no, you're wearing a mask. Dude, get out of here. That's just one idea I've had for this. Another thing that I think I'm going to build with this is you can do a lot of similarity stuff. So I can upload 100 pictures of myself and then upload a picture and say, are you Jeremy? And then it looks at all the other pictures. It's been trained on that model and says, no, this probably isn't Jeremy. And I think a great way to do that is similar to where, like on my iPhone. So I have an iPhone. And in my iPhone, when I do the facial recognition, it says turn your head all these different ways. So I think in a future application, I'm going to build that so that we'll take pictures of ourselves, and I'll stare forward and then go to each side and then upload all those as a picture of Jeremy. We'll do like a facial recognition login. I think that would be really cool. We're not going to do that today, but we're probably going to do that in the future. Might be something to work on during my vacation. So another reason I'm doing a stream today is because I'm going on vacation for a week. So I'm not going to do any streams next week. Most likely I will be in a beach house with probably like dial-up speed internet connection. So that was another reason I decided to do a stream today, because I'm not going to do a stream next week. But after that, I'm going to come back with a bunch of Golang and Raspberry Pi stuff, and it'll be great. But today, just for today, isn't that cool? I just created that with videobolt.net. I just created that intro so that I can intro some of my Blazor stuff as I do it. So one of the things that I want to do is start working on, and this is going to be another project that I build on stream. So I've got two separate projects. I've got the hot car project, which most of my followers are probably from the hot car project, where I put the Raspberry Pi in a car and I put it outside and there was a heat wave and I measured both of those and combined them. This is a totally separate one. This is for my Blazor.net folks. This one's going to be a facial recognition one, and I just want to build it all on a stream so we can kind of build it together. One of the things I want to do today is create a person group. So let's go to person group. And we'll just read the instructions. Now, a person group is just a group of people. So you'll use this to train your model. And you'll say, I'm going to upload all this. And I could say, let's say I'll create a person group called family, which is my family, right? I've got 2 sons and 2 daughters. I've got a beautiful wife. I could upload pictures of them and say, this is Jeremy's family. And upload all of these, and then take some pictures, you know, from wherever and upload them to the group and say, is this a member of my family? Yes or no. Also, you could do the same thing with the person group that I was just talking about a few minutes ago, where I could upload a bunch of pictures of myself and then say, is this Jeremy? Kick it up to that person group, which I've named person group Jeremy. And yeah, it's just basically a grouping of pictures, and all of those groupings will train the Face API to say, these people are all a member of this group, and then we can upload stuff to it. So today I want to create a control that will go in this person group. And I'm going to take a quick break really quick and be right back with, we'll get started. We'll create a razor component for this. We'll do some CRUD stuff. I've talked about doing this in streams where we'll do some CRUD operations. This is kind of CRUD operations with the Face API with Blazor. It'll be really cool. And yeah, I will be right back. That was supposed to repeat. I didn't put it on repeat. Oops. So I'm trying out some new stuff with my stream here. You may have noticed. So up here at the top, I have the environment that I'm working in. So I work on 3 different machines primarily for streaming. So I decided to put that up in the upper left-hand corner there. I have today's environment, Windows 10 Pro on my Digital Storm Lynx. I also have Arch Linux on the Digital Storm Lynx. And then I have a Mac Mini M1 that I stream from that runs OS X. And then I have another Mac Mini, a 2011 Mac Mini with Pop OS that I used last week. So whenever you tune into my stream, you'll be able to see which machine I'm using, which environment I'm using, because I've got Windows folks that follow me, Linux folks that follow me. Not everybody wants to watch everything. So as you can see, we have Windows 10 Pro, Digital Storm Lynx, and today's topic of Blazor. And actually, I'm going to try my other cam here. Oh, look at that. So I've got 2 different cameras going here. I don't know if you'd rather stare at the front of my head or the side of my head, but I've got 2 cameras here for some of the video production stuff that I do for my job and things like that. So I decided to put in 2 cameras. And that way you can see my generic shirt. We'll probably just go here for now. So we're back at this API and we want to create some person group stuff. So we can do this pretty easily. We're going to create another component here that's very similar to this one. In fact, I'll probably rob some code out of this one to make this component. But let's go ahead and start it up here. This one's going to be called person group. So I'll bring back, there's the API. This is called person group, so let's just call this control person group. Razor page. This one, I just want it to be an empty Razor page. We want it to be a Razor component. And it's going to be called person group. Oops, I have caps lock on. Person group.razor. Perfect. So we go up into our attributes here. We've got some routing that we want to put in so that this comes up. Attributes, this one's just going to be person group. Let's go ahead and click play. Instead of attributes, we'll put in person group. Voila, there's our new component. Now I'm building this as a Razor component because, so if you're pretty new to Blazor, Razor components are not very new, but they've been added to Razor, and what they are is C# and HTML in the same page, which is pretty awesome. It can grow, of course, when you start putting in a ton of C#. You'll want to abstract some of that stuff out. I've built some Razor components with just huge amounts of C# code in them and had to refactor and kind of split things out. But it's really cool that you can put C# in here. This turns into JavaScript. It's pretty sweet. So what we want to do is create a new group. And actually, I need to add this to my nav menu. So I have this nav menu here, and we have image attributes. Let's copy this. And we'll just put in person groups so that we know that this manages person groups. And then we'll point this to our Razor component. I almost typed in point. Our person group. Let's test that before we get too carried away. Make sure we can get to there. Okay, so we have image attributes. That's the one that we were playing with earlier, and we're running all those images through. Now we have person groups. Sweet. Let's create a component. Now the first thing we want to do is be able to create a person group. So We'll put in a label, name of the person group. Let's make sure the casing is proper on that. Yep. Yep. Okay. So name of the person group here. And we'll drop in an input. I can never type when people are looking. So for this input, we're going to bind it. Not bind attribute, just bind. There are times when ReSharper gets annoying. Like right now. I don't care if you think it's junk, it'll work. Okay, so with this, we can bind this to, we'll just say person group name to make it clear. And of course it says, hey, person group name doesn't exist. What we're doing here with this bind directive, yeah, I'll close this. What we're doing with this bind directive up here is we're binding this input to person group name, which can be anything, but we're of course going to make it a string. And what we can do here is just say, we'll make it a property, person group name. Our type is going to be string. Actually, this can be private. Let's see what it doesn't like about this. Create type. I thought I just did create a type. Oh. So now these two should be bound together. I don't know why it says create property. That's what I just did. So let's see what. I had it out of order. That's one of the problems with jumping between languages for sure. I jump between a lot of languages a lot of times. All right, just checking my chat, make sure there's no questions or anything in chat. So now we've got this bound here. Input is bound to person group name. One of the things that we can do here, let's see. And check this out. Let's see. Just push play, test it out really quick. Okay, so name of the person group. This will be our name. What is the next thing that we will need? Oh, we'll need to create an actual person group. So we're going to have some user data that comes out of here. Let's go to get. So in our get command, we will get back a person group ID, name, user data, recognition model. I'm not messing with the recognition models very much today. So really all we need is these three. And these are going to be returned back. So the way Blazor works, and this is one of the reasons Blazor is so amazing, in C#, you create a POCO, plain old class object, or you could probably create a record in C# 9. But you create a plain old class object, and if it matches that JSON, when the JSON comes back, you can just stuff it into that object. That's what we're going to do. So I'm going to create a public class, and we'll call this just person group. And in here, we'll have a person group ID, right? Because we've got right here, person group ID. This ID is kind of, it's a string. So it's not really an ID like an integer or a GUID, it's just a string. That's the way their API works. So that's what we'll do. We'll say public string. And this string is going to be our person group ID. And what doesn't it like? Oh, there we go. So now we have our person group ID. And then we're going to have the name of the group, which is our person group name, which let's see how it comes back. It just comes back with name. So we're going to put just name and just user data for these. Because we want this to match the JSON that comes back. So I believe this is camel case, user data. Okay, this is the JSON that we're going to get back from the API. So now we've got it. And I'm thinking about putting in a little display message in here. I think, yeah, we'll put in a little display message. And I think I'm going to put a break here because I want that to be break. And then P, we're just going to put display message. It's always good to have some kind of display going, right? Like that says, that didn't work, or yeah, that worked great. And we'll just make this another property here. This is going to be a string. We're going to name it display message. Get and set. So that should work. So as this thing is starting up, we have somewhat of, it's kind of a constructor. This thing. Override. Async. Nope. Async task. And this one is called on initialize async. This will be called whenever the page is initialized. There's no suitable method for override. I think on initialize async. Oh. On initialized async, right? There we go. And so this one we'll set our display message to hello. Now when this starts up, we should see the little hello there below. Just basically testing out our bindings here. Hello. Perfect. I'll probably put another break in there just so it's spaced out a little bit. All right, and we're rocking and rolling. We're on our way. And still no stream. I'm kind of surprised because we have about 40 people watching right now. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll make it happen. If I don't have the answer, I might know where to find it. Let's see what it doesn't like about this. Oh, it's awaitable. Okay. So we've got that. We're good to go. What's the next thing we need to do? Oh, we need to create a table with all of our, let's see, with all of our person groups. Now we're probably only going to have one or two, right? But if we're going to make this a true like CRUD management page, then we need to put it on here. So let's build it out. Table. And I'm going to say class equals table because this is going to be a bootstrap table. Let's do a table heading, table row, table heading, and I need to look at my notes to see what that class name is. Oh, scope column. And these are going to be the column headers that come in here. So we want our name, which is going to be the person group name. And we can put in a description, and that's part of the user data. User data is just a description. So instead of user data, we're just going to call it description. And then we'll have an ID. I don't know why I didn't just duplicate this. And check something really quick. I keep hearing my fire pager. Okay. So this one we'll put in the ID, which I think I'm going to use integers for the ID, even though it's a string, but all right. Let's look at it and see what this is going to look like. And it pops up on my other monitor, but here we go. So we'll have a name, description, and ID. Perfect. And I will be right back again. But this time I'm going to edit it really quick so it repeats. All right, we're back. Still nothing in the chat, so obviously everything I'm doing here is pretty simple. No questions yet. So what we're going to need to do is create some person groups out of these person group here. And we'll loop through those as they come back. And I don't even remember because I've been playing around with this API quite a bit last week. I don't even know if I'm going to have person groups in there, but I'm pretty sure I will. So for our table body, T-body, let's put some person groups in there. Now what's really cool about Razor, one of the things I love about Razor is you can just inject code in there. There is some mixing of functions that used to bother me, but it really doesn't anymore. This just makes it like dynamic HTML pretty much. So we're going to say person group in person groups, which doesn't exist yet. I know. So for each person group and person groups, let's create a row. Let's create a table element. And in that table element, we're going to have person group. Oh, look at that. It's already No, it's going to be... Should be person group dot name. And then this one's going to be, yeah, name. And then this one's going to be user data. And this one's going to be person group ID. So now when we have these, now I'm going to push play and it's going to break, right? We know this. Because we don't have person groups. Person groups doesn't exist, so we're going to create person groups. And all it is going to be an array of person groups. And this one can be, let's see, this will be a person group as the title, and person groups. Put our getters and setters on there. Let's see if it likes that. Still doesn't have that person group ID because I didn't do my casing properly. There we go. Now it's going to break in a different way. Click on it. Doesn't really do anything because there's no person groups. It's blank. So we're not even going to draw this table unless we have something in person groups. So that's pretty easy to do. Again, we're dropping in an if statement. If person groups is not null, then we'll draw this table. Otherwise, we're not even going to draw the table. And actually, else will do the display message, right? Actually, we can update the display message. That'd be a better way to do it. That's a better way to do it. Display message, no groups present. And actually, I don't know if there is any groups or not. We haven't actually done the API call yet. But let's look at this. This should fix our problem here. It should come up now. So we've got our image attributes. And it's still barking at me even though person groups is null. So what we could do here is say person groups null. I hate using null like this, but for now, this will work, and then we'll fix it. Yep, and it's still for each person groups, in person groups, it's still null. It still doesn't like it. But I thought that was the whole point of saying if it's not null. Still doesn't like it. Person group is null. So we actually set it to null and it still doesn't like it. Person groups is not null and person groups is an object. It's okay, we may just skip past this part anyway. Aditya Gupta says, nice, keep it up. Thank you for watching. It would be absolutely pointless if I were to hold these streams and nobody watched it. Which right now, not a lot of people watch it, but I appreciate everybody who does. Even you, Aditya. I hope I'm saying your name properly. And remember, you're coming from YouTube, but I won't always stream to YouTube. I do a lot of streaming on Twitch. Most of my streaming's on Twitch, so be sure to follow me on Twitch and retweet my tweet at the top of my Twitter to possibly win a Raspberry Pi. So this is kind of weird. It's if person groups is not null and it's an object, then do this thing. But it's just kind of skipping over that right now, and I'm not sure exactly why. So await operators. I think I can await that, right? No, that's not awaitable. That's an assignment. That's fine. We're going to fix all of this stuff so that it works. I'm just kind of curious why it seems to be ignoring my directive here. Make sure I'm building it. I mean, it's fine. It's just a little strange right now. But we'll keep going with it. Person group, persons get set. So the first thing we do is set that to null. We don't need to do that. We'll just jump in and start populating that, and then we'll figure it out. One of the things I want to do is populate this table. So I'll need to make an API call. We're just going to call this populate table. Populate. And what this is going to do is just make that API call out to the Azure Face API, grab our list, stuff it back in the table. This is probably going to be one of the most meaty things to this, but we're going to call it pretty frequently. So the first thing I want to do is set my person groups to null, because we don't want to stack. You know, one of the mistakes that I've made in the past building things is I'll create something like this array here, and at some point I will forget to unset everything and just kind of stack it. So I'll pull in a bunch of data, put it in there, and then I'll pull in data right behind it, and then you have duplicated data. So that's why I'm setting it to null right now. And then we're going to need to do an HTTP client. We're just going to call it client equals new HTTP client. And we're going to need a base address. That's the very first parameter here. What I'm going to do is set a base address up here, because here's one of the things about the Azure Face API. The URLs are not the same. They're generated based on your API. So what I'm going to do here is grab my URL and create a base URL. We'll just do like a private read-only string. And we'll call it base URL. There we go. This is my base URL. Your base URL will be different. If you're doing this, if you're following along and you're going in this Azure Face API, you have to create a unique name for this subdomain right now. I've got Blazor Face Rec as mine, and yeah, you will need to create that. And that's what we're going to use here for our base HTTP URL. And actually, you can't pass that in as a string for this base address equals. Nice. What am I doing wrong here? Oh. So we need our base address. There we go. And that's a URI. So it needs to be new URI. And then I'm going to do base URL plus our face API. I believe it's user groups or something like that. Let's check it. Oh, there we go. So that endpoint, where it says endpoint, that's your subdomain that's created when you create the face API. It creates a unique subdomain that you name, and mine is Blazor Facial Recognition API. That's this first HTTPS endpoint. The next part that we need right here is face version 1.0 / person groups. So I will just add that in. And this should be good. Let's see what it doesn't like here. Cannot use a nullable reference type. Oh, I didn't actually add a nullable reference type. There we go. Perfect. Now here you can use var here. That's what this. That's what ReSharper is suggesting. Here's the thing. I'll do a quick sidebar on var versus specifying the type. C# is a strongly typed language. The interpreter requires type declaration before compiling, but you can put in var. And I do var a lot of times, but sometimes it makes it more clear. It just kind of depends on what you're doing. Sometimes if you put just a bunch of vars in there, it kind of makes it muddy. Yes, it's easier, but you already know what the type is. The type's over here, so it's kind of repetitive also. But for this one, I'll just leave HTTP client. It's not really that big of a deal. And this is going to return an HTTP response message, which we're just going to null out right now. Did I spell that properly? It's a type, but it's used by a variable. Because I just typed in the response, and we'll just name it response. So our HTTP response message is going to come back in response, but right now we're setting it to null. This is kind of the same reason we're setting person groups to nulls. We just want to reset it. We want it to be blank. We want it to be clear and ready to go. Okay, check. Good to go. Now we need to add in some headers. So I can't just make a face API request without my subscription key. So client default request headers add, we're going to add in that key. And I'll copy this from my notes. This is that subscription key that you get with the Azure Face API. And what I've done is I'm storing it locally on my machine. I do that so that I can share this source code out everywhere without my API key being in it. And I will need to inject that up here so that I have it. So we'll put in the inject decorator. Perfect. Private. And this is an app configuration that I've created. And actually I could stuff my, now that I think about it, I could stuff this base URL in that app configuration also. It could do the same thing in there. Config, get set. And that comes from this little thing right here. Now we have base URL get set. I don't know why I typed it like that. Probably because people are watching. And where do we populate that? Startup.cs. Here we're creating a new app configuration, API fee. Let's go ahead and stuff my base URL in there also. Startup CS. There we go. Now I have base URL set in there so that I can just reuse it anywhere I want. We'll get rid of this base URL. And instead in here, we're going to grab this from config, which should be injected now. Config.base URL. And then this one is going to be config.api key. All right, so now we're adding in this request header. You can add in several request headers. The only one I think we need for now is this API key. I know that we need the API key. So now let's create our response. Response is we're going to await client get async. So this is just, as we can see by the API here, it's just a get for a person group. So we're going to use get async for that. In our get async, actually we can do client base address. So far we don't have too many squigglies here, right? So this should be pretty good for this populate table. And we want to read in this JSON as string. Let's say if response, and there's a content thing. So if response content exists, right? It's as object. And what else do we want to check for? Response status code, maybe. So we don't need a status code yet. We just want to make sure that it is a JSON response. So response, headers, content type, and then it's media type. Oops. Is application/JSON. All right, so let's look at that. Basically, if the response content's an object, so we're getting some kind of response, and the header type is application JSON, then we know it's sending us JSON of some type back. We can clean this up, and we can get more detailed with this later. But basically, this is just saying if we've got a response, it's got some content, and that content's JSON, let's read it in. So do var content. Throw another wait in here, and then we'll just do response content. Let's see, copy to async. We'll read async as string, or read as string async. So if we've got content coming back, we've got a good response, we've got content coming back, let's read that in as a string, and then let's stuff it into person groups. What we'll need to do for that is use JSON serializer. There we go. This should add it up to the top here. There we go. Let's use our JSON serializer and deserialize that JSON. Now the way JSON serializer works, it's really, really, really cool. It's going to say content, and then we'll put in some options. The options, here's one that I like to put in a lot. Property name, I think it's property name, case, sensitive. It'll tell me here in a minute if I'm doing wrong. I thought I had that in my notes, but I guess not. property name case insensitive is true. And what we need to do, so the JSON serializer, basically it serializes and deserializes JSON for transport. We know we have JSON coming back, so we want to deserialize that into a string, and we want to put it into our person groups. So this should work. Not nullable, my friend. Probably not the right property name. Property. Should be a JSON name property attribute. Let's see if I got notes here. Property name. I have it copied here. This should absolutely work. Maybe I could just null this for now, because this JSON serializer, this is an option that I've used plenty of times before, where you make the property name case insensitive. Because JSON naming values are different than C# naming values, so that's basically why you put this in here. But, oh, there we go. Oh, and I need to pause really quick, so I'm getting a phone call, and then we'll jump right back into this. All right, my apologies. Sorry about that. Wife called. We're getting ready to go on vacation for a nice week at the coast, the Oregon coast. So excited about it. That's, like I said, that's part of the reason why I'm doing this live stream today, is because I'm not going to be able to do another one for like a week. So okay. So let me explain again here what I'm doing. See, part of the whole reason I'm doing this stream, it seems like everybody that's watching right now hasn't seen anything terribly confusing, because there's about 40 people watching, and so far nothing must be very confusing. But I'll explain it anyway, because I do have a few people that watch who are learning to code or just getting started with code. Some of them haven't even picked a language yet, and so I kind of want to explain what I'm doing instead of just ripping through it. So right here, I'm saying our content, we're just var content. It's just creating a temporary little space for this. We're going to read this in as a string asynchronously. It's going to be JSON. We know that because it's specified right here. And then our person groups, which we created up here, which is just an array of person groups. We're going to use JSON serializer to deserialize it into a person group array. And we're going to do that to content. We're going to take content and stuff it into this person group array. And I throw an option. This is an option that I throw in here a lot because JSON naming conventions and C# naming conventions are a little bit different. So we just put in an option that says property name, case insensitive, true. That means we don't care what the property name, how it's cased, whatever. We're just going to stuff it into content. So this should work. This should grab person groups if I have any and stuff them into this person groups. And then up here, we should display it. Let's push play. Oh, we got build errors. That's right. I probably fixed that and then unfixed it. So syntax errors. I'm excited for this to work. Are y'all excited? Ah, still not working. Temporary local was null. Because I did set it to null right there. Did not populate. Thinking my person group needs to be set a little bit different. I don't think I have anything in my notes about it. All right, I can set this to private, but that's not really going to fix our problem. Person groups, get set. How about we take those accessors off of there? I think that'll actually fix this. So get and set are called accessors. Way back in the day in C#, you had to create an object and do get and set by basically saying if they're passing in this value, then assign that value to it. If they're asking for that value, take this value. Anyway, get and set's basically shortcut. Accessors, and I don't actually need accessors on person group. I put those on accident. That's my mistake, and that's what's caused that error. Is if there's nothing in there, there's nothing in there, and when we get ready to assign it, we don't need get or set to do so. And we're still having the same problem where it's null. Let's just pull it out of there. We don't need to null it. I don't like nulling things anyway, so I'm not sure why I even put that in there. And we're still having the same problem. So, object reference not set to an instance of an object. Oh, I don't want to do Visual Studio Live Share. I don't want to share this stuff with anybody. I'm sharing it with you all. That's bad enough. Oh, get out of here. Okay. Let's check over all this again. So I should say if person groups is not null, just build this. Keeps opening up on that second monitor, which I'm not a big fan of. Let me select it. View details. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. So something's definitely wrong with what I'm doing here. I was pretty confident going in that this was going to work, but I think I need to do something else. description. See, there's those C# naming conventions. I named this thing just like the JSON that's coming back. Not optimal, but that's how I decided to do it this time. Yeah, here's how I have it in my notes. Got a getter and setter, got person groups. Where is person groups used? It's in populate table. So populate table should fix the problem. Let's just find out. We'll call populate table when we start out here. And here we'll either get an API error or we'll get a populated table, right? Still does not like it. I think I know what I did wrong. I think I know what I'm doing wrong here. One thing, let's change this. This isn't quite correct. Person group in person groups. I'm gonna find out why my person groups is misbehaving so much here. Let's throw a try catch on there. See if I can get even more details. It's not set to an instance of an object. This is one of the reasons I like streaming, is because I run into these wild little problems and I have to fix them live. Like, I've got to fix the problem live instead of just cussing to myself and doing what I usually do. JText, system text JSON, system text JSON serialization. Wondering if that capital letter. Try something really quick. Seem to remember something strange with routing, but that's not it. Get out of here. So I've got some new sounds that I've added too. And right now, I'll just hit this every time it doesn't compile. Like, sad face. Okay. Okay, all this stuff should work just fine. I hate ending a stream with a failure, so the pressure's on. Person groups. So we have a private person group here. We don't need accessors on it. We don't need any of that stuff. If it's not null, and this is what I don't understand, it's throwing this null exception, but it should never get there because it's supposed to be checking to see if it's null to start with, right? What's null? So I don't know if I need to instantiate something. I don't think so. Oh, and this should be awaited. Looking at that right now. This could possibly be null. I don't know why it's breaking. So I wonder if I should start it with something, but this is not null. Should be. Yeah, that's why I'm confused. If it's not null, let's just try isObject and run that check. Actually, I think I know. I just looked at my code and I know exactly what I did wrong. I'm surprised nobody popped into the chat here to call me out on this one. Nope, nobody called me out in the chat, so I'm just gonna say it. You can't just dump code like this. You gotta put the @ sign. Otherwise, Blazor will not interpret this as code. Notice how I did it down here for the for each, and I didn't even notice it. Visual Studio didn't pick it up. Restream didn't pick, or Restream. ReSharper didn't pick it up. Visual Studio didn't pick it up. Nothing picked it up. And it was just human error. Now it's going to, well, I spoke too soon, didn't I? Where is it expecting this? Right here. Now it's going to interpret it as code, and it'll do that check. I was wondering why I was skipping that check, you know, if not null, go, and then it said, oh, it's null. It's very confusing. There we go. And I do have two families, or two person groups here. Like I said, I've been kind of playing with this a little bit, but I can delete these. That's fine. So we're ready for the second stage of this, where we're going to add and delete. Let me see where I'm at for time. I am going to have to leave for a vacation soon, so I'm going to see if I can get this functionality in here quick before I go. So we'll close this out. Now we need to add a person group. What's cool about this, we'll do a lot of copying and pasting from stuff we've already done. We'll do private async, task, add. We'll call this add person group. Now we're going to do something very similar, except we're going to, oh, I can't believe I did that during a stream. I don't have my little dongle plugged in, so that means I have to close all of these things in RX. Make sure and have your dongle plugged in. Add person group. We're going to copy a lot of this stuff. We're going to copy out HTTP client, the response message, and the headers. So let's copy those. Now this, to add, we need to put it, I believe. Yeah. So to create, we need to put. It's going to be the same URL, except we're going to send a put, and that put is going to have a person group ID and user data. Like I said, we're not going to mess with the recognition models right now. We're just using standard recognition model. But we'll do name and user data. So for add person group, I think we can use the same base URL and the same, let me check to verify. Yeah, same URL. Perfect. We're just going to send a put instead. Now, what I want to do for this is we can put anything we want as an ID, which is fine, but I want to put in a GUID for an ID. You can put in text ID, you can make text, blah, 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 whatever you want. I'm going to do a GUID. And we'll say GUID, new GUID. And this will be our ID. Now we need to do a payload. for this, right? Because we have to send this in. Let's go back to the IP. We have to send in some JSON here that looks about like this. And like I said, we're skipping the recognition models. It's just name and user data, which we have up here somewhere, right? Yeah, so we have one of these in a person group. So I think we can use a person group. A person group with a null ID. We should be able to use that as our payload. And there's only one way to find out. We'll call this payload new person group. And we can see we have a name, our name, user data. This is some data. This is going to be the payload we're going to send it. Now, what we're going to want to do is bind this. So we're going to want to bind it to a name and a description. And here we have a person group name, which is great. And we need a person group description. So let's create some new inputs for that. Obviously, we don't want to hard code this. Like if we hard code this, it's going to name the same thing every time. So we have our person group name already. Let's crack out another input here. We'll say bind. And this is going to be person group description. And I don't want to bind attribute. I want to just bind. And we can see because it's red, it doesn't exist yet. That's okay. We're going to add it. It's going to be just like person group name. Except it's going to be person group description. Ta-da! I've been waiting to play that sound, so I'm playing it again. So now we have a person group name and description that are both bound to these inputs. And then we'll go down here, and for our name, we'll just bind them things, right? Let's see. Name is person group name. User data is person group description. So now we've got a payload, and all we're doing is creating this new person group. It has a blank ID in it, which is fine. But we have a name and a person group description. We're going to send this payload in. It's going to go to that Azure Face API. They're going to store it. And then it's going to kick it back the next time we go to look for it. I promise. So we need to create this, but we need to take this and we need to do the reverse that we did earlier. Earlier we took JSON and we stuff it into a string and then put it into an object. Now we need to do the exact opposite. I'm just going to call this payload string. And we're going to say it's new string content. So for the type, we need to serialize it. Do that. System text, JSON, JSON serializer, dot serialize, and we'll serialize our payload. There's a few other settings here. What is it? Encoding. For encoding, we'll use UTF-8. What's the next one it wants? Encoding. Yeah, we'll import that. UTF-8. This is using our MIME again. Media type names. We want this to be application JSON. So when we send it, it appends those headers that we need. I'm seeing an error there. So perhaps I forgot to put in something. I don't know. We'll build it to see if it's a delayed error. It appears to be something delayed. So Once again, we're going to have a response. Let's see, yeah, create a response that's null. This response, we're going to await it also and say client put async, right? Because this is a put. I don't know where it says it. There it is, HTTP method put. So we're going to do a put async. Client base address. That's the base address that's up here from our config. And then our string. And I think this is going to work. So, let's see what we can do here. We'll just say if we're sending back something, it's good. Display message. Added. Push play. Is it going to work? Is it going to work without breaking? Oh, I should have put a label in there. I'll just put a new group, and we know that this is the group name and new description. But I have no submit button to call that method. I just created that method without even creating a submit button for it. So this is add person group. Let's go up here. This is a good time for us to put in our label anyway, right? Person group description, or we could just put description. We know we're creating a person group, right? So we'll just put in description. Then we're gonna need a button. What kind of button should we put in there? Let's put a button on click. We'll throw an on click event to it. On click, add person group. Bind that in. Every time you see that @ sign, you're binding something. So we're binding this button. We'll put in add person group. Convert to object. I think this will work. I think that's a delayed message. Nope, it's not a delayed message. So button on click. That should get rid of it. There we go. Okay, so now we're in event. Now we can add our person group. Quick tech check here really quick. See if we have anything in the chat. Nothing in the chat. Coolio. Cooking with gas. Now we have name of the person group, description, new group. This is a description. And now we'll click add person group. Cross our fingers. Added. Says it's added, but I don't see it there. I don't think it added it. I'm pretty sure it didn't add it. And we're seeing a no groups present message, which is a little strange. So if person's group is not null, oh, that's right. We have a display message up here. Huh, that is interesting. That's another one. I'm not exactly sure why it's doing this, but that's okay. We're gonna figure this out. So name of the person group, and then we return person group name. Description equals this, then we return. Trying to put some returns in here to kind of put some space in there. Now, when we click on add person group, it goes all the way down here. Expression's always true. We always have some kind of content. about that? If it's a status success code. Now, how much you want to bet? It is not successful when we do this. Not kicking back any errors, though. Display message equals response status code. I think I can just put this to string. Let's see what that status code is as it comes back. Not found, not found, not found. Okay. So it's something with our API call. Not a big deal. Let's just jump in and look and see what we have going here. So we're creating a new HTTP client with add person group. And we're doing all of this exactly the same as we did the fetch for populate tables. So we're saying new URI with our base URL. We're adding in our API key. We're creating this person group description into this payload. Then we're deserializing it, or we're serializing it into JSON. Then we're doing put async with the payload string. So this is kind of interesting. Why is that showing not found? Because our base address, I mean, here's one thing we could do. Say display message. Plus client base address. ToString. Let's see what that client base address is. This might tell us a little bit more. It's saying 404, which just means bad API call. Not found. Oh, look at that. We've got an extra slash in there. I bet you that's what's doing it. Base URL. Which didn't do it up here. Which is interesting, but we're just gonna see. Yeah, we'll do all of the rest of these. Every time we're using them, we're going to not have that. Let's see if this fixes it. I mean, maybe it works with the get, but not the put. That's what I'm thinking. So with the get, it was a little more forgiving, but with the put, it's not having it. Nope, still saying not found, but this time we have the correct URL. And this is face detect. Person groups. Let's just make sure I have the right API in here. Sure looks like it. Oh. You know what I'm not doing is I'm not adding the IP ID. Check this out. So right here, I didn't look at my own request URL. I have to add that ID onto the end of the URL string before I even send it. So when I'm sending this thing here, check this out. I have a put, create person group, this F, you know, like hi, new ID. You have to send that ID through the URL string. So that's what I'm doing wrong. Easy enough. We'll just add that ID, which is going to be a GUID. Let me check something here really quick. Okay. So, name of the person group, Jeremy's new group, description, new description. And you can see right here, here's the ID that I just created a couple minutes ago. Add person group. Oh, and it says added this time. So we'll refresh it. Jeremy's new group. That's what I'm going to do. Every time something goes well. If it doesn't go so well, then it's... But right now, we got this to work. Now, we want it to refresh. We don't want to have to refresh the page. That's so 90s. So, if response is status success code, what did we call that? Populate table? Let's call populate table. We'll jump right back in there. Okay. New group, new group. Now, when I hit add, it should automatically, there we go. Look at that. Isn't that special? Isn't that neat? So now we can create a person group. Now we need to be able to delete a person group, because as you can see, I'm filling this up with garbage. Right? Nobody's going to need this many person groups if you're just playing around with it like I am. So let's delete it. Deleting it should be fairly easy. We need to take, let me think about this. We need to take these right here for delete. Once again, we're copying some more HTTP commands. So we'll say private async task. We're going to call it delete person group. And we are going to have to pass in an ID. Now you might want to put int ID in there or GUID ID, but we're going to put in string ID because our ID is a string in this wacky world that we've decided to live in. So now the ID is passed again into the URL with this. We'll go back here, delete. Let's look at what we need to do for a delete. HTTP method is delete, which is good. You know what really used to bother me? Just a quick sidebar. What really used to bother me is back in the old days when REST first started becoming a thing 10 years ago. I don't know, a long time ago. And, you know, I used to work with a group where they did not like HTTP verbs. And so they said, oh no, for delete, we're going to say /delete/ID, and we're going to send a GET request to that, or we're going to send a post to that. I worked at a company where they sent posts for every single thing. For delete, update, like create, read, update, delete, all of them were post commands. And I'm not even really sure why it bothered me so much, but it just bothered me that they had these HTTP verbs available, like this, HTTP method delete. The verb is available, and they're like, well, we're not going to use that. Nobody uses that. Well, now, 10 years later, everybody uses that. At least if you're designing a good API, right? You can do gets and posts for everything, but you shouldn't. Use the verbs. It makes it more clear and understandable. We're going to use the verbs today. And the verb is delete. And we still have the same endpoint URL. We still have the face 1.0 persons groups. And we still have the IP or the ID appended to the end of it. This time we're going to pass this ID into this method, this delete person group method. We're going to pass that ID into there. And then of course we have our response, and we need to add in our key. And then we'll say response will await a client Watch this. Delete async. We're going to cause it to use that verb. We're going to use that verb. Client base address. Bam. This is how we're going to delete it. We're going to use the delete verb. We're going to follow the API's design using this endpoint, this URL. We're going to pass our ID to it, and we're going to send it to delete. So since we have the response, we can say if response is, there we go, that method, I like that. If response is static success code, then our display message is going to be, we deleted and we'll say plus ID. Oh, I can't code today. It's because I'm hours away from a vacation. That's why. Oh, and before we forget, we are going to want to await populate table again, because when we delete it, we don't want to have to refresh it, right? Actually, we'll just skip it out. So this is a little Blazor tips and tricks. You don't have to do this. So we can go like this. Oh, and I need a delete button before I show you this. I'm scatterbrained today, man. I'm telling you, I'm just right on the edge of a vacation. Staring down the barrel of a fishing vacation. So we need to add another column to our table. th scope. I'll just call this action. And we need to add a button in here to delete. I could do it with a link, could do it with a button. I think I'm going to do it with a button. I just like buttons better, and you can style them. And we'll just do another button on click. We're going to bind this. We have to do it a little bit differently. I just cannot type today. See, we're going to bind it to delete person group, and then we have to bind person group person group ID. That's right. So in order to pass this in, we have to do a couple bindings here. We're binding on the onClick element. Then we're using this little function here to bind to delete person group method, and then bind to the person group ID that's going to be spit out by this for each, so that we can pass that ID into that delete person group method and bind it to that onClick event. It's just binding on top of binding on top of binding. Seems complicated and seems weird, but I'm telling you, from a front-end development point of view, this is great. This is awesome. Once you understand this and you understand how it works, this is actually pretty awesome. It just looks really ugly on the screen. If you haven't done Blazor before, or you haven't done a lot of front-end development, you might be like, what on earth does this mean? But we're just binding this, and this is actually really clean and a great way to do it. I like it. I'm really enjoying Blazor, and I'm not a front-end developer. I know how to do front-end development, but I never call myself a front-end developer. Oh, I need to put something in my button. Delete. That'll make that button a little bit bigger. So let's try this. There we go. Now we got a delete button. So I'll click it. We deleted SVSG. What about Heinewood? We deleted Heinewood. Now here's what I said about the Blazor tips and tricks. You can call refreshes, and you can have things refresh without having to refresh the browser. I don't want to refresh the browser every time I delete something, right? That's silly. So we just put in this await populate table, fire it up again, bring it over here again, And we can add with no refresh and delete with no refresh. So I can just delete these willy-nilly until we have nothing. Now we have nothing. This is our first group. This is our description. No refreshing the browser. No doing anything silly. Actually, we could sit here and do this until it breaks, right? It says JSON value could not be converted. So it doesn't like it. And what I did right there was just overloaded the API. There's request limits for the API. You can't just sit there and hit it unless you get a premium one, of course. So I'm just using this free tier thing. You can't just sit there and hit it and hit it and hit it like I did. But you can hit it at kind of a sort of moderate pace, right? And then delete, 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 delete. No refreshing of the page happening. And I went a little fast. That's okay. So that's just something to keep in mind. I can't think of any situation in which you would want to create person groups one per minute or even delete them one per minute. So these API rates don't really matter. So this pretty much accomplished, this is pretty much what I wanted to accomplish today. Matt Ohm, thank you for joining again. Cool XP background. All right, let me bring it up. That's my XP background. I'm just kind of silly like that. This is Windows 10. This is not Windows XP, but that's just my little tribute to Windows XP. Decided to do it. So today, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this stream. I'm a little bit late, but today we went through these images, and we'll just show it again, just for those who joined us a little later. What were we doing? Images, test. So today I took a bunch of images that I took this morning with different emotions, ran them through here to test the emotion surprise. My age changed quite a bit through each of these, like emotion neutral. And then today we created person groups, and these person groups are going to be used to train the machine learning behind the Azure Cognitive Services Face API, which I can't believe I was able to say that. Earlier in the stream, I was having a hard time with all of my words, but now I'm good. So the Azure Cognitive Services Face API is what we're using for this. And in this stream, we made it so that we can create these groups and delete them. In a future stream, we're going to do even more with this, and we're going to create some groups. We're going to upload some image to the groups. We're going to send images back and forth. It's going to be great, but it's going to be not next week because I'm going on vacation. I'm leaving. I'm going fishing and hanging out at the beach and all of that kind of fun stuff. So no streams next week, but then I'm going to go back to the Monday, Tuesday, and probably Friday stuff. So what I would like to say before that, this is our Blazor Face Recognition API that I'm working with today. This is publicly available on GitHub. Anybody can use it. I'll even put it in the chat. This is the facial recognition Blazor application. The only reason I'm creating this is because the Face API has been out for 2 or 3 years. You have a .NET library that's super easy to use. Like if you're building a WPF app or even a web API app, the built-in library, so you don't have to make any of the calls or anything. It's just very, very automatic and smooth. However, they have nothing for Blazor. With Blazor, you have to go in and do what we did today, which is create a bunch of HTTP clients and send commands and parse them back and forth with JSON. And that's why I created this project, is because there was no good Blazor Face API client in Blazor. So that's what we're creating. We're making one. And it's going to be great. And I'm going to keep working on this. So be sure to follow along. Follow me on Twitch. Another thing here. All right, let me bring up my cam. Where is it? There it is. I'm giving out one of these. So I'm going to say this during every stream. This is a Raspberry Pi 400. It's a Raspberry Pi board, chip, memory, hard drive, quote hard drive, all within this enclosure. And it's very cool. You take this, you add a power supply to it, you plug it into a monitor. It has Wi-Fi, or it has this little Ethernet connection. It has a GPIO on it. This thing is just really, really cool. And I'm giving one away to one of my followers. So as soon as I hit 500 followers on Twitch, I'm giving this thing away. The way to enter is to go to my Twitter page, twitter.com/Jeremy C. Morgan. At the top of this page, you will see this tweet. So retweet this tweet, follow me on Twitch, and you'll be entered to win. We'll do the drawing live. As soon as I hit 500 followers, then I'm going to give one of these away. This could be yours. Not this one. It's going to be in a box with all the cords and the manual and everything. And what's really cool is it comes with a pre-burned card. So you just stuff the little card in there, wherever it is. You can barely see it on here, but comes with a pre-burned card. You can actually just stuff the card in, power it in, plug it into your monitor, and start using it. Even though I generally will wipe it out and put different versions of OSs on it. But it can be yours. So enter to win that. Retweet this tweet. Looks like I have 114 of them. That's pretty cool. And I'm going to give one of those away. And I'm going to do some streams with this little machine. Maybe we'll try some .NET on here. I don't even remember if .NET Core runs on here. But if you're watching today, you might be a .NET person. You might be a Blazor person. Maybe we'll see if we can get Blazor to run on this thing. Anyway, I think this was a fairly successful stream because I was able to show some stuff here, showing some how to, we just created a Razor component together here. This person group, it has some HTML in it. It has some code in it interspersed. And then down here in the code section, just a whole bunch of C#, right? And if I were going to make a real application out of this, I would abstract the crap out of all this stuff. I would take all of these HTTP responses and everything, just abstract all of it and say, give me this, give me that, pass in JSON probably. That way we could do some dependency injection and testing and all that. But for our purposes, for educational purposes, for playing around with this API, this works pretty good. So I'm going to end this stream, but I would like to thank everybody for coming to it. Had a lot of people today on the stream. I think I haven't been checking it super close, but it looks through all of the platforms, over 50 people watching. So I appreciate it very much. Follow me on Twitch. That's where all my streams are going to be. That's why I have it back on the bottom there. It says catch all streams here, because every stream I do is going to be on Twitch. Sometimes I'm going to kick it off to different platforms. Sometimes I'll kick it off today. I'm kicking it off to just Twitter and YouTube. But a lot of them I'm just going to go straight to Twitch. And I want to show you something else before I leave. One more thing. So I've been saying in my descriptions that I do, Blazor, Golang, Python, C#, and sometimes 8-bit games, right? Well, I set this thing up today. Where is it? Okay. So I'm going to load up NEStopia just to show what it's going to look like. I'm going to load up Super Mario Brothers. And then I'm going to switch this. Check that out. Isn't that cool? This is a new screen that I built up. I've got OBS set up now. I've got a controller here a USB powered Nintendo controller. So probably on Fridays, maybe Saturdays, when I'm not doing anything else, I'm going to continue to do these professional type streams during the week, like Mondays, .NET, Windows stuff, Wednesdays, Linux stuff, Fridays, sometimes Fridays will be either one of those two, something technical, but they're going to be pretty serious technical coding stuff like we did today. But then I'm going to do like little bonus streams where I play Super Mario Brothers like this. And so I created this screen today, Retro Gaming with Jeremy. It's going to be a part of the stream. Maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't. I imagine most of the people on my stream are coming here to see me write code and build stuff. That's primarily what I want to do. I don't want to become some professional run-through video gamer person, but I love these games. So I want to share it with everybody and play it. So I'll do some like reviews and stuff, and yeah, it's going to be really cool. Are you sure? Yes. So again, thank you all for coming to my stream. If you're watching this on YouTube or Twitter or somewhere else, make sure to follow me, twitch.com/Jeremy Morgan, because this is where all of my streams are going to go all the time. I'm going to do some longer ones. I've got some cool stuff planned. Anyway, thank you all very much, and I will see you soon. Have a great weekend, great time. I'm going on vacation, and I'll be back.